Audio test, 1, 2.
This is
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our June and maybe July board meeting. It's good to see you all here today. We just enjoyed a wonderful meal down at the bus barns, courtesy of our maintenance and operations staff, and it was outstanding. And I want to thank them, Dr. Dyer, publicly thank them. We visit all the schools, but we think it's important to visit them as well because they are very critical to the operations and transportation of our students. And so we should be feeding them, but they fed us, and we think that's a great honor for us to be included in that. And tour the bus barns. We saw a couple new school buses today, and I got on one just because I love the new bus smell. But it's very frightening when you get on the bus and you sit in the driver's seat, and this is a sitting still bus. And you look in that rearview mirror and you see those big side mirrors and you see all the things that bus driver has to be aware of, let alone 80 seats in the back full of students. So it's a pretty phenomenal thing to have anyone who wants to drive buses, and we're understanding that it's getting more and more difficult to find drivers. So thank you, Hal and staff, for having us down there. We really appreciate it. We're going to have a prayer, and then we're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance, and Carolyn's going to do the prayer for us this morning.
Let us stand and reverence for our God. Our Father, we've come to you today so thankful for what you do for us, for our many blessings that we so much take for granted. And we pray as we start this meeting today that we will open our hearts and minds to whatever we might know and learn about what is about your business and about our school business. We thank you for every teacher, for every principal, for every school board member, and for the love and passion that we have for our school system and our children. Now bless us today and help us to be that person that you created us to be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, you have the consent agenda in front of you. Is there any item anyone would like to remove? Krista?
Yeah, we need to review the policy on the evaluation, the board evaluation. Can't remember the number.
Okay, it's 1.103, and we'll put that down on the regular agenda after the spotlight. How about that? That would be second reading, but we'll get clarification. Are there any other items? And I just wanted clarification on one of those field trips about the chaperone number. I know there's 4, but it says 2. Mm-hmm. So if we could just get that corrected.
We can, and I think Dr. Elliott was checking you on that. So
I have some information.
Okay.
Okay. You want to go ahead and tell us?
Yeah, I can go ahead. We have 4 that are going on that trip that are employees, and so they put the 2 down there, but it meant to be the 4 names that are listed up above in the document.
Okay.
So
just
we'll get that corrected.
Okay.
They said at the time when they put it out they had 2, and they had not confirmed those 2 names, so they knew that they had the 2. And so since then they have confirmed all those people that are on that list.
Great.
That's what
Great. That was the girls' basketball
2
trip.
new assistants, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other items on consent that anybody wants to pull off? If not, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay. And a second from Peggy. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Very good. Thank you. Okay. We will move right to the director's update.
Okay, fantastic. And we'll put the slide deck up there, and we'll get into this today. All right. First off, we've had a very successful end to a very good school year. And the school year started, of course, in some rocky areas with COVID, and then we battled through that together as a team. And I think we, in the end, had a very, very good school year, a very successful school year. And it's always fun to go out and visit our classrooms, visit our teachers, visit our students, administrators, cafeterias, and see the work in action. I think that's one of your favorite things to do as board members is go visit our schools. And I would say the same thing. And I'm really proud of all the efforts put in by all of our staff, our students, our families this year to make what happened take place. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens because a lot of people work really, really hard, and very proud of those efforts, as well as efforts in our central office location too. Everybody has to pitch in and make it happen. So thanks to everybody for a really great school year. We just wrapped up last week 2 days of our final 2 days with the NIET group looking at principal and academic team training. We worked on reflection as professionals in our fields last week for 2 days and had good conversations, a lot of laughs along the way too. It's good to do that toward the end of the year and have a time just to kind of breathe and take in some professional development that we can carry over into the summer and into the new year. So good to do that and finish that up and get a little training toward the end, and glad we did that. Had time to just be together as administrators for a couple of days before the summer truly gets underway. You see kind of what we worked on there. Summertime, we have quite a few things. You know, it used to be in a school system when summertime came, everything just kind of slowed down. Well, it slowed down for us for about a week. Really not even that, because things were happening last week, and we're back at it again. So summer learning camps are underway. This year we're holding summer camps at the middle school, Arnold, Ross, and Mayfield. I know various members of our team have been out and about. I've been to the elementary camps. I've not been to the middle school camp yet, but the elementary camps, those kids are having so much fun, and they're learning great things that they're going to be carrying over until the next school year. And the teachers are having fun, staff's having fun. It's just a great time to bring our kids back into the buildings in small group settings and actually take time to learn, but do really fun, engaging activities along the way that maybe would be a little bit more difficult to do with a class of 20 sitting in front of you. Can you go to the next slide for just a second? I took some pictures and I posted these to social media, but I wanted to show you just quickly. These are just a few pictures that I snapped yesterday when I was out and about, just to kind of give you a taste of what it looks like. So you can see bottom left-hand corner, my left looking this way. We got students in the round. They were reading, and the teacher sitting in the circle there too, and they're all participating together. Then we have in the middle some STEAM activities that are taking place over at Mayfield. What they were talking about there is gardening. And yesterday they had the head botanist for Opryland Hotel electronically zoom in and have conversations with those students about gardening. And I remember one of the female students that was in the STEAM class, when she found out the lead botanist is a woman, she said, "Wow, there's a lady doing that," which is awesome. That's great to hear, and it's great to hear that from a student. And then, of course, we have summer learning. It's summer learning, so when you come to the right side there, you see they have a tent up, and they've got I think they have some beach towels out for their reading circles and things. So these are things that you can do in smaller groups that maybe you can't do during the school year with larger groups. And those students are getting an education on top of the education they had during the school year. And that's the whole goal, is to extend their learning but sneak it in, because we're doing a lot of fun activities along the way. So if you get the opportunity, or if you'd like to do that, Adam Moss is kind of leading our efforts as far as summer camps this year, and Jeff and his team. But if you're interested in going out to see any of those schools when they're doing that, just let me or Jeff or somebody know. We'll be glad to kind of tell you the hours and where they are and those kind of things. So a lot of fun things happening. All right, we can go back. Good, thank you. Summer school is also happening at the high school. It's more traditional in nature. So we're glad that that's underway as well. Literacy trainings are also underway. We have a lot of trainings right now. We have a lot of teachers engaged in professional development. I know last week and this week we have elementary training, for example, and those have been full. We're at Candies Creek. It is officially a state training, but the majority of folks that are at our trainings are our teachers that are going back and getting this PD from the state. And we also have literacy training for secondary that's happening at Blythe Bower. So we have a group of secondary teachers, middle school and high school teachers, that are out at Blythe Bower getting this training as well. It's a different training than elementary, but a training nonetheless in literacy. Over the summer, we're going to be updating and revising emergency operation plans. That's a big part of what we'll be doing. The state has rolled out a lot of new information, not just based on, unfortunately, the sad situation in Texas, but this has been underway for a while. They're having us go to a new format for how we do EOPs. So when we come back together in the fall, we'll be able to give you more of an update on what that looks like and share some additional information with you as far as those pieces go. But just know that Cliff Eason is leading that effort up, and his team of professionals who are looking into that. And of course, we're working closely with Cleveland Police Department and other agencies here to make sure that we're doing all we can to keep our schools safe. Hiring, big time job right now. Kelly Kaiser and folks, our principals and everybody, their interviews are definitely underway. I think yesterday I checked that we have about 35 openings across the district, which is pretty normal for us at this point in time. There are a lot of domino effects. You know, when you fill one job, if somebody from internal, then you have to fill another job, and that's part of it. So a lot of moving and shaking happening right now in HR, a very busy time of the year. Summer is just swamped in the world of HR because you are doing so much. And of course, that trickles down to finance and business too, because you have to do all the entering in for payroll and all those pieces that come with it, and insurance. So a lot of things happening, but we're in a good place. We're having a lot of applicants. I think, Mr. Kaiser, if I said an elementary job right now easily gets 40 to 50 applicants, is that pretty accurate? That's pretty accurate. So that's good. It shows that I think we are a destination location for people in our field who want to do the work we're engaging in. And we're seeing that across the board, I think, not for every single job because some are more specific and more specified, but we're seeing a lot of applicants coming in. That's good. Orientation for new hires, that'll be something we'll be doing as we get on down the summer. That's a big part of bringing everybody in and letting them know who we are and what we're about, and make sure that induction goes well for them, because we want them to go into the classroom and know names and know faces and who they can contact for this, that, or the other, and just make sure they understand the culture that we're trying to build and want to build on here. So we're having a lot of, that's always a lot of fun to bring them in, and they're a little shell-shocked always at first, you know, because they're, you know, especially people brand new to teaching when they see all the business side of it, but it's fun at the same time. It's a good thing to do. We are planning for our administrator retreat in late July. That's always a big kickoff. So even though we're just starting summer, we're planning for the end of summer and school for August and to continue on with what we're doing. We're also busy planning convocation, of course. We'll get you more information on that as we go too. But it's also vacation season. And one thing I tell the staff, and they've heard this a lot, is go on vacation. You know, you've got to get away and slow down, and the work will be here when you get back, but take time to get away, whether you're a principal, whether you're an administrator, whether you work in operations, whatever the case is. I want people going on vacations, taking their time and resting up, because it is a long year and everybody needs to do that. So a lot of updates there, a lot of things happening. Summertime is not a slow time at all anymore. It's very, very busy, a lot of things happening, a lot of things moving, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. So that's my update for today.
Made me tired just hearing that. Charlie?
You mentioned the summer learning camps at Cleveland Middle School. Is a temporary road we put in, is people using that okay? Or
I would say so, yes. Hal, you might want to share more on that, but I've not heard anyone
we're using that
having
now, right?
issues.
Okay.
Well, we're using it. We'll really start kicking it in next week. The middle school will start using it. But yeah, it's usable, and there's actually changes going on today that I'll be going over after this meeting on looking at how traffic flow looks.
Yeah, the traffic flow around the middle school will change next week. That's been in the paper. They've been advertising that, so we're all a little bit anxiously awaiting what that will look like. So,
and they shifted the lanes out there today, so you know they just shifted that today. So we'll have to look at what's happening and make adjustments.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have one regarding kind of reflecting back on what happened in Texas.
Right.
Do all of our classrooms lock from the inside?
I'll take
They
it.
all have. We updated the keys back about 4 years ago, and when we did that, Stewart was the only one that didn't lock correctly. So now we changed all the locks in Stewart, so now all of our classes lock with a key. So the teachers all have a key to their classroom to lock their classroom.
Okay.
And that came from a training I don't remember where we were, Hal.
It was a
That
state
It was a
training.
state training on that, and Homeland Security recommended that change at that point. We had grant money to do that, so we went ahead and did that about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Good.
And I'll comment, you know, when we were in the schools delivering the checks back in the spring, Mr. Acciona was with me at the middle school, and those teachers had those doors locked. I mean, we either had to knock or he had to unlock the door. So it doesn't do any good to have locks if the teachers don't close their doors and lock them. But they all were when I was in there that day. So I'm glad that they're doing that.
Yeah.
That's good.
I heard something exciting at lunch about one of the programs that they're having at the middle school. that kids that had struggled in school have access to maybe 4 elective credits that they can apply to high school. And that would encourage them to stay in school, and because they will start, a little bit ahead. And I was so excited to hear that. So I thought that's something new
Right,
that we've had.
and that's what we're gonna have to keep working on. How can we be creative?
Mhm.
How can we use our
Right.
resources more effectively to
Mhm.
help students take classes that are interested in,
Right.
and make them feel more interested in their
Mhm.
education and taking ownership of that too. That's
Mhm.
a big thing.
Mhm.
I agree.
Mr. Moss was real informative. It was good to eat lunch with him and
Yes.
hear all those
Mhm.
programs that are kind of new.
Yeah.
And we asked him about the summer school program.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job, it
Yes.
sounds like,
Yes.
so that's great.
We're
Anybody
happy.
else? Okay, then we will move on to our spotlights, Dr. Dyer.
Okay, going on the spotlights, we're going to start today with, let me get down here to the right place. We're going to talk about STEM first. We have some exciting news in the world of STEM. Portsmouth High School got STEM designated last year, and this year we're bringing on Blythe Bower and Cleveland Middle School. So we have our principals here with us today, and I'm going to ask Ms. Croft to come up and tell us a little bit about your projects there at STEM at Blythe Bower.
Okay, I don't know if this is on, I guess it's not, that's fine. All right, we are so excited to have STEM designated this year, and a lot of hard work went into planning and organizing and submitting the application so that we could be STEM designated. It did start last year, so Cody, if you'll just go through the slides. So we started off with why STEM. So we wanted to explain to our faculty and staff and our parents and other stakeholders that STEM jobs are the future of our economy. And this is the direction that our state and our school system are headed in. And so we got to working on the why. So we explained to our teachers the why. Cody, do you want me just to give you a signal when it's time to change? Okay. So starting at the state level and just trickling down to the district's 5-year plan, to the school level for improvements, and then that all encompasses and helps for student growth. So after we did that, just going into planning last year, 2021, 2022, this is our master schedule, and this is what it looks like. And so we felt like having STEM actually in the master schedule would help our teachers have a dedicated time to do STEM, to go to the STEM lab or to continue with STEM lessons in their classroom. So you can see that we did tag that on the end of the day. We also hired a STEM coordinator who helped coordinate all of those activities for the whole school. One of the things that we did is we had a STEM team. So our STEM team designed the steps to design thinking. And because we were the Bobcats, we had the Bobcat steps to design thinking. And so one of our 5th grade teachers did design the PAW. So every student and teacher, we trained them on what that looks like. So you're going to ask the question or the problem. What is the problem that we're having in our community or our school or at home or anywhere? And then they can actually write in the little PAW, and then they imagine what steps or the solution that they want onto planning, and then creating either the module or drawing a module, and then they're going to test and improve. So all of our students, like I said, we have the design thinking, this Bobcat PAW hanging in the classrooms and around the school, so the students can constantly be thinking about, oh, we have a problem here. How do I solve that problem? These are the steps that I need to take. So this is just a little bit about what we did with our staff and other stakeholders. We wanted them to own the learning. So one of our staff development trainings, we had everybody broken into different groups, and they had to use the Bobcat steps to design thinking to go through and solve a problem. So this first one is toxic popcorn. So the task was, you have toxic popcorn, we can't let it spill out, you have to contain it somehow, and these are your materials that you're going to use to get there. So they collaborated together, and they A lot of them did a good job of containing the popcorn. A lot of us contaminated the whole school, so but it worked out well. And then you can see that some of the other stations were math and engineering, and some of our other teachers also were designing some things to work on. That they had a lot of fun with it, and just to know that if you're having fun, our kids are going to have a great time with this as well when they are exploring and solving problems. And we want it to be fun, but we also want them to be thinking about, where do you start when you're solving a problem. So some of our students, some engagement activities that we've been doing at the school, for enrichment, we had brought in News Channel 9. We set up a Bobcat News station for some of our kids to come to the STEAM lab. We actually interviewed Dr. Dyer on one of those sessions. What happens with the Bobcat News is every Friday, it goes out to our teachers and they can show the newscast to their classroom students, full of students, and that's how they would do the news for the week. And then we have a school-wide greenhouse that is our 5th grade students made the steps of how they needed to plant, what they needed to do. The teachers planned together to take their classes to the greenhouse and actually plant anything that they needed to do. And then our kindergarten service project, all of our classrooms, each grade level had a service project to give back to the community. And these comfort bags were for students or children who were in the ER who needed they're scared. This is a comfort bag to help them to get over any of their fears when they're at the hospital. So this is just a little bit, a look of our STEAM lab. We do have this is just a small portion of what we have in our STEAM lab. We have so many materials and so many exciting things, but some of these are microscopes that students can check out, take to their classroom. We have 5 3D printers, and then we just have a dedicated space that teachers can bring their kids out of their classroom into the STEAM lab and work on projects alongside of our STEM coordinator. So, what are our next steps? Well, we're STEM designated. It's a very exciting time. There is a 5-year plan, and with the new principal, Dr. Joel Barnes, we'll be meeting with his team. We did receive $30,000 that we're excited to be able to spend on activities, professional development, field trips, materials, bringing in community partners. We are going to be a model school, so other schools will be visiting our school to see what all the great things that are happening in STEM at Blythe Bower. The STEM leadership team will be including more community members and students. Joel Barnes will be able to address that in August. And then another component will be evaluation of student achievement and growth. So we want to see how STEM is having the effect that it's having on our student achievement and how our students are growing. So we're excited.
It's big news. Big news.
It's a lot of work is what it is, and dedication from the whole staff, not just the administration telling them what to do. Obviously, they can't achieve that without buy-in from everybody, so the teachers are to be congratulated too.
Absolutely.
Everybody. Anybody have any comments or questions? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
I'll invite David Luckner to come up. I think he's going to talk a little bit about STEM at the high school.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here to kind of share what's been going on at the high school with STEM since we've been designated back in 2020. And I know that a few of you have been able to come and visit us at the high school and tour and see especially the stimulation center is what we're calling ours at the high school. And to kind of go back in time where we're as Cleveland High School with being STEM designated, we have been designated for the past 2 years now. And back when we began looking into being designated, it was beginning a small process with Dr. Elliott and Mr. Wittenberger creating this process of being STEM designated. But soon it became a school-wide initiative where everybody was working together to understand how we would make Cleveland High School a STEM school. And what would that mean for every teacher? Because of course we have English language arts, mathematics, social studies, fine arts, CTE. How are we going to include that for everybody? And when we went through this process, there was not very many STEM schools designated yet. I think around 50 or so. Now there's 88 or so schools designated. So it's been great for everybody at the high school to be able to work through this. It's a challenge to become a STEM school where the pedagogy is throughout the whole school. Every teacher understands what's expected of them to be able to incorporate the STEM activities and practices in the classroom. Cody, if you don't mind, go ahead and go to the next slide for me, please. So this STEM mindset that we all have, it comes from the many, many professional developments we've been going through for the past few years. Even so far as now, we've entitled it Tech Thursdays, where we get together during our planning periods to talk about how we're incorporating those STEM principles and continue to update, continue to work together to make sure that we're still meeting those needs of the students as they're looking forward to the future of either continuing to grow at the high school level in STEM and their career aspects, their post-secondary opportunities, but getting them ready for future skills and abilities, their problem-solving skills, their troubleshooting skills, and doing that on their own too. Going a little bit further into the professional development here, you can see in this picture we have is where Mr. Tim Smith, who is leading professional development, a lot of the equipment we have in the lab, and it's continuing to grow. Since you all have visited, I think there has even been some few additions to equipment and materials that we utilize in the Stimulation Center. But there are professional developments online even too for teachers to go through and look at and seeing how to utilize this equipment on their own. Because again, it's a time in which teachers sign up to utilize these equipment or the equipment and the materials in the classroom instead of it being set teachers doing set times a day. It's open for teachers to utilize throughout the day. Now, with this Stimulation Center, also comes with what we've been working on is the STEM design process, which is similar to what Persavia was mentioning here at their school as well. What we utilize throughout all of our classes, and one thing that we base a lot of our STEM activities around is the STEM design thinking process, which there's so many different versions that people use in the industry. In my classes, it's a little bit different, but that's okay. The whole point of this STEM design thinking process is that it's something that can be used for any classes in history, social studies, or English, science. All of them can use this STEM design thinking process because the goal is to help the student to learn to think on their own, learn to work through problems, and then maybe go back if they need to rework that problem and continue on. And one thing that we did this past year, starting in January, is to do this school-wide. If you don't mind to go to the next slide. Here are some pictures of what we coined the Design Thinking Challenge for this school year, in which all teachers across the high school, whether they be in CLIMB, which is usually 10th through 12th classes, which is like their homeroom, or the FX classes for freshmen, the freshman experience classes, every single class throughout the whole school for the second semester this past year worked on their own classes, maybe in small groups, maybe as a whole class, to come up with solutions based around disabilities, based around the elderly. And so as you can see here from some of the pictures, projects varied. It was up to the students to decide what it was that they were going to try to create, to create mock-ups or even prototypes of their products to help the elderly, help the disabled. So some examples here are a modified wheelchair that not only, of course, is a wheelchair, but has the accessibility to be able to reach up and grab items or notify people that it's coming through. There's even a temperature modulating jacket that students created that would either cool someone down or help to warm somebody up. And lastly, there's even an example here of some glasses that would be able to read out what it is on the page here. But these are just a few. Again, this is every single teacher at the high school utilizing the STEM Design Thinking Challenge. And it wasn't even the teachers doing this work. This was presented to the students in their classes for the students to do this on their own, where it's student-led. The teacher was more or less the bumper guards to kind of help keep them in track and online. And this was every day. We have CLIMB most every single day in class, and for about 30 minutes a day, students would work together to come up with contacting companies to ask questions, find materials and gather materials, as you can see here, for their projects. Work with other teachers maybe to learn some things that maybe they didn't know at the time, to reach out to other teachers like me even for the STEM lab, to utilize some of the equipment in the STEM lab for these projects. And again, all of this utilizing the STEM design thinking process to help our students to continue to grow, to realize that they can do this on their own, they can be ready for the future, whether it be post-secondary careers. We want them, help them be prepared to become life learners, to be productive members of society, like our mission and vision here at Cleveland City Schools says. So that's what we're doing at the high school, and we look forward to continuing this process, to continue to develop our STEM lab, continue to develop our STEM design thinking process, and how our pedagogy at the high school is just pervasive throughout all of the different departments at Cleveland High School. So,
It's pretty amazing.
yeah.
Anybody have any comments or questions for Mr. Gluckner? Yes, thank you for being here and telling us that.
Absolutely. Excited to do so. Thank you.
And of course, we're very proud of the middle school as well. They have their camps going on today, so they're incredibly busy over there. But the middle school, they put a lot of work in, a lot of time, and had a real team effort there as well. So we appreciate Dr. Lane getting it kicked off last year and then carried over to this year where designation was obtained. So we're very, very proud of them and the work that they have done as well. We also have some schools that have been designated Capturing Kids' Hearts Showcase Schools, National Showcase Schools, which is a huge award as well. So we're very proud of the middle school, the high school, and Stewart Elementary School for being designated National Showcase Schools. And we're going to start, Ms. Rochelle, why don't you come on up and tell us a little bit about National Showcase.
First of all, it's such an honor to be able to say that our school has made this achievement because it's been a work in progress for a couple of years trying to get that behavioral component of what we teach our students in place. And we feel like Capturing Kids' Hearts and that curriculum was able to just really jumpstart us to go in the right direction. And so I wanted to share with you today that at Stewart, we know that for us to reach that portrait of a graduate that our district has set before us, that we have to know that it's a whole child approach. And so Cody, if you could scroll to the next one. In that whole child approach, it's more than just academics. That is a lot of what we do in a school because that is with what we're charged to do. But we know that it also encompasses the child's physical and health. It takes into consideration, are they an active part of the community? Our motto at Stewart is love, learn, and lead. And we know that the love is the most important part because we've got to lay that foundation. And so that's where social and emotional learning comes into place. And Capturing Kids' Hearts helped us with that social emotional learning piece. And so if you could scroll on up, Cody. When we think about social and emotional learning, we have things like our PACs. If you've been to a Friday celebration at Stewart, then we're recognizing students. We want them to feel like they have a sense of belonging. They're not just at a school where there's people teaching, but they're at a school where they're learning. They are the center of that environment. And so we already had that piece in place. If you remember that we were designated as a trauma-informed practices school, and we're working on that this past year and this coming year. Miss Alicia Cars has played a huge part in that. We have impact meetings 3 times a year where we're looking at more than just academic data. We are looking at behavioral data. The teachers complete surveys on the students to look at what internal or external behaviors are students exhibiting, and do we need to try to provide some interventions for those students. And so then adding Capturing Kids' Hearts in, just it's more than just counseling lessons. We already have a fantastic counseling department in Cleveland City Schools, but it goes beyond that once a month counseling lesson. And so at Stewart, we decided to add in 15-minute morning meetings every morning. It is part of our schedule. Every person in our building is involved. It's not just the classroom teachers delivering it, but if you are a related arts teacher, if you're a specialist, if you're a paraprofessional, everybody is in a classroom, except for myself, Miss Jennifer, and Coach Kaiser, actually, because she helps me with announcements in the morning. But everyone else is in a classroom working with children through the Capturing Kids' Hearts curriculum. If you could scroll up. So, working through Capturing Kids' Hearts this year, one of the pieces is that we were to complete survey data. I completed it as the leader of the building. We also had other administrators in our building, the teachers, the non-certified staff, and then we had our 2nd through 5th grade students also complete surveys. And so what you're looking at here, the areas that are green, means that we exceeded the National Showcase average. So on the right, those are all schools that were chosen as National Showcase schools, and that is the average in those different areas of those exemplar schools. You can see that Stewart, we had one where we met right at it, but all the others, we exceeded that average when they looked at our survey data. And I think you guys were provided with that if you want to dig a little deeper into it. And Cody, if you'll scroll up, I just highlighted a few areas. Our staff said that, greeting students at the door, like, is that happening every day? It was a 4.8 out of 5. So that's a pretty high rating that every child is greeted when they come into the building and when they come into the classrooms. And then looking on down where the staff says, I believe that good relationships with our students is important to their success. That's a 4.9 because we know that if we lay those foundational pieces that the learning's going to come. If we can have a safe and a secure environment, they're going to learn. And then I love the last one. It says, students, my teachers encourage me to do the best that I can be. That's from the kids. That is their perspective and what they feel like their teachers are there to help them with. And that was a 4.6 when the average was a 3.8. So I was really proud of our school. We have worked very hard this year, and it is not just an initiative that we said, oh, we're going to do this initiative. No, it's become part of who we are at Stewart Elementary School. And so to be able to have this designation or this recognition on top of that, I feel like it's just such an honor for our school. I won't go through the rest of all of that, but part of why we started looking at even the PACs several years ago is RTI is more than just response to intervention academically. It's actually RTI squared - B, and the B is for behavior. I think they're going to keep adding letters, is what I feel like. But it's more than just making sure that a child gets what they need academically. If some children have difficulty controlling behaviors, or maybe they're super shy, or they can't engage, we have to get those pieces in action and working before we can expect the academic parts to come. And so at Stewart, we've layered in those tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions so that we have things to meet every student's need, no matter where they may fall in that area of behavior. And so again, really proud of the school, really proud of the hard work that the students, the teachers, the staff have done, and thank you guys for helping us get Capturing Kids' Hearts as a district-wide program for our system, because we've really taken it to heart.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Michelle?
I just want to make a comment. This is an incredibly important program and makes such a difference, because I keep thinking about what's happened in other parts of our country, and something like this could have prevented it, and I think y'all just do a wonderful job. I was a former counselor and school psychologist, and I see the importance of it, and I'm so glad that you're doing it, and we have it at every school. And I'm not sure that the whole community knows that we have this program, because I was talking to somebody at my church yesterday, or no, was yesterday Sunday? No.
The other day.
The other day. And I asked them if they knew about it, and they said no, they hadn't heard of it. So I'm glad that we're talking about it so the whole community knows that we have it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership at Stewart School in all of these things. The STEM work that you're working toward that, and this. Besides, we have to teach the children the reading, writing, arithmetic. So thank you for your leadership, Michelle. Appreciate it.
We appreciate your support.
Of course, Michelle and Persavia are both going to retirement on very high notes there.
Yes,
so we
very good
appreciate
for
their
that.
service and the work. And the work will continue and will be picked up from there. So thank you.
Thank you.
We need platforms.
And I will add, if those of you that are presenting want to leave, you certainly may. After your presentation, that's fine. We don't take offense at that.
Well, the high school also has been designated again, and we're very proud of them and their efforts. And Dr. Reed is going to discuss Capturing Kids' Hearts and the showcase there. I feel like this is the showcase showdown.
Yeah, the showcase showdown. I like that. You should think about that for the future.
Yeah, we just all get to take turns. It's super fun.
Yeah, it is. It's
So we have been, again, we have been fortunate that we have been a national showcase school before. So what I kind of wanted to just tell you a little bit about today is kind of what we've done in the past, how we've helped build our CKH program, and what we're kind of looking to do towards the future. So back in 2019, we actually created the affirmation team, and that was just high school, or that was just our teachers. And we were like, how can we better support our teachers? Like, I felt like we felt like we did a good job taking care of our kids. Like, we loved our kids, we wanted to be there, but we wanted to, what can we do to better encourage our teachers? We know that if our teachers feel loved and accepted, and if our teachers feel valued, right, that kind of trickle down approach really does come. If they're happy to be there, then our kids are going to be happy to be there and learn. And so that's something that we've been very intentional with. We have monthly notes. We have dress up days that are just for teachers. The kids have been super confused by it. All of a sudden we all came in like fall or like hunting gear or, ugly sweaters, and the kids are like, what are you doing? And we're like, we're having fun. We're doing something, And so it really just kind of brought this team aspect, because you guys know the high school is so large, and if we are not intentional about getting our teachers to communicate with each other, they can be very isolated. The science wing, the west wing, the arena, the east wing, And we've tried to work really hard to get our teachers to interact with each other so they can build those relationships. We also have Teachers of the Month. We followed the CKH Excel model, where we recognize teachers for different things, and those are student nominated. The students choose those. It's not the admin team, so we're really excited about that. And we've worked really hard to highlight other interest groups each month, like our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers, or our SROs that all do really great work that may not get highlighted as much. And so we've been doing that for a couple of years. We're really excited about it. We're looking at continuing that. But one of the things that we're looking at doing for next year is we've been really excited about the success that we've had in our FX program for our freshmen. And we've focused really hard for the last 4 years on not only making sure that they feel loved and accepted at the high school level, but really playing a big part in that social emotional learning. And so what we are wanting to do is now kind of amplify that for 9th through 12th grade. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at now is incorporating the CKH materials and programs. Like I'm gonna use an old term, but back to like character education lessons. They have incredible things for respect, perseverance, kindness, integrity, that like are all of these buzzwords that we know, but they have lessons that are targeted for each grade level. And they have culminating projects that each of them can go out in the community and do things that build those skills as well. And we all know that like that's a deficit that we're seeing in our kids, like not just at Cleveland High School, right? But everywhere is kind of seeing that. So we're really looking at bolstering that up, and we're really excited that Capturing Kids' Hearts has all of this available to us that's so easy that we can, use our teachers and train them. So we're really excited about that.
Good work going on.
Yes.
Big work going on. Board members' comments? Thank you, Dr. Reed. We appreciate you being here.
And we are very proud of the middle school, and Dr. Lang doesn't know I'm about to do this, but I'm going to do this. Dr. Lang, would you like to come up and talk a little bit about what the middle school is doing as far as Capturing Kids' Hearts and the designation there? I'm putting you on the spot, but you are the former principal and secondary supervisor, so
I can do
I'm
that.
putting you on the spot. So thank you for doing that.
That's okay.
Share a
That's
little bit about the middle
okay.
school.
That's okay. The middle school works really hard with Capturing Kids' Hearts, and this is their second year in a row to be designated as a national showcase school. And several of the things that we do is definitely it's a big important thing for our teachers to be at that door every day. And they are trained to greet the students, but to also look in their eyes, to kind of see where they're going. I've noticed teachers seeing kids down the hallway. You can usually see it written all over a middle school child when things are bad. They're droopy. And so our teachers are being trained to be able to recognize this, to be able to show them that they indeed care. We also try to show appreciation to parents as well. I know that our Process Champion team, which is a group of the teachers, they have had signs out when parents are coming to pick up kids. It says, thank you for being a partner and being a parent. They also are, like the high school's A team, they are the ones that go around and help give little treats and snacks and pick-me-ups to the teachers as well, because as we all know, when those teachers are picked up, they do a better job of picking up students. And so then I've watched teachers replicate the things that we would do for them to the students, like writing a note. I mean, it's really cool to take a marker, a dry erase marker, and write on your desk, because you're not allowed to. All right, but I have seen classrooms write a message, a nice kind note to the next student come in to sit down. Like, oh, hope you have a great day in reading. We're getting ready to do this today. That's cool. And then the next group will erase that, and they will write for the next group. So they are using all of these things to help capture those hearts. And it is so important, because we get so bogged down with illness and with just different things in the world that we need to let those students and teachers know that we all care about them. So they do a great job at that at the middle school.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
So that was a lot for Spotlight today. You know, it's much longer time than we usually spend there, but I thought it was important as a culmination of the year to hear some of the great things that are happening in our schools. So I hope you got a lot out of that. I always do. It's always good to hear that. So great work by everybody.
That's right, Dr. Dyer. We do need to hear this because schools they do so much more than just teach a subject. I mean, they are a culture that child is in every single day, and they have to deal with all of the social, family, all those issues that are out in the world, plus what they see on the news and everything else. And somehow when they walk in that school, that faculty and staff has to address that with those kids every single day. And I think it's a wondrous thing that goes on, and I appreciate that you shared all that with us. Okay, well, the next item on our agenda is policy 101.103, which was board evaluation.
Correct.
Krista, you want to address that?
Yeah, I don't have it pulled up. My computer died, but I think that at our last meeting, we said we wanted to adjust one of the bullet items that said that the evaluation would be addressed at a meeting where everyone was present. And I think we talked about either eliminating or changing that so that we weren't tied to that specific requirement, and it could be part of a regular meeting if we wanted to, or part of a retreat. It gave us some more flexibility.
Yeah, I think we voted to eliminate the line that said it would be the only item on the agenda, because we did ours at a retreat this time, but we had other items, so if you're going to have a retreat, so I think that's what we want to be sure that is removed.
I am looking at the notes, the minutes. The board made the motion to take line B out of the policy, so we can do that in this, revise that. So
we need a motion to approve, and this will be our second reading, but we would like, after this meeting, to get a copy of that correct policy, if you would send it to us.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Motion? Nate, second?
Second.
Or Carolyn, All right, questions or comments?
Clarification, so is the motion to strike the entire line B, or just take out no other items on the agenda?
Strike line B, like
The
we
entire
mentioned
section.
from the previous meeting.
That's what So, okay.
Is that good?
Any other questions, clarifications? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Very
we will
good.
get that cleaned up.
Thank you. Okay, appreciate that. We will move on to the communication audit.
Okay,
Dr.
and we
Dyer.
have a slide deck that will be on the screen. All right, the communications audit is something that we have discussed. You discussed at our board retreat. We've discussed it at a work session. And now I'm coming to you with a proposal to move forward with a communications audit. Julie, before she left, and I as well, have been in contact with several different agencies that do communications as a professional organization. And the one that we think has really risen to the top is the one that I am going to present to you today for us to look at, think through, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you may have. The National Schools Public Relations Association is the national organization of school public relations professionals, and they have quite a large organization encompassing all of the United States and actually other countries too. With members, they have annual meetings, just like you would for TOS or AASA. That's their field. That's what they specialize in. And if we go to this slide and look at it, you can see NSPRA, which is of course the acronym, was established in 1935, so they've been around quite a few years. And as you can see here, its goal is to develop professionals, communicate strategically, build trust, and foster positive relationships in support of their school communities, which is a lot of what we've been chatting about in our meetings, and is things that we want to accomplish and things we can improve on. NSPRA started conducting communication audits back in the 1980s, and they worked with hundreds of school districts and education agencies. I think the packet that I sent to you that looks like this has a whole list of references in there, and you can see that they've worked with districts that are tiny, a couple hundred, to school districts that are 70, 80,000 and larger. So pretty wide spectrum as far as that goes. They propose to work with our system to do the following. And you can see this: provide an independent review of our overall communication program, make the most of our communications budget by assessing the effectiveness of current strategies, identify strengths, weaknesses, and gaps, and finally recommend proven, cost-effective tactics for achieving our communication goals as a district. The process on the next slide, is pretty thorough. The NSPRA communication audit uses a basic building block of public relations practice, which is listening. A lot of listening goes into the practice that they would be putting forth here to evaluate and make those recommendations for our communication program as a district. And when I say district, that means schools, the board communication, pretty much all facets of communication as a district has. Some of the things that they would be looking at and important factors affecting effectiveness include current perceptions about the image of district and schools, parent, community, and staff members' issues, concerns about information and wants, current communication, marketing, and engagement efforts, short and long-term communication goals and priorities, key messages to be emphasized, new communication, marketing, branding, and engagement strategies that are warranted, as well as communication, organization, and staffing needs, and a baseline for evaluating the effectiveness of our overall communication program. So it encompasses a lot of different pieces in there, culminating with how do you measure if you're actually meeting the goals that are set by the board in the world of communications after this audit. The audit process is fairly lengthy, 16 to 17 weeks from the time of setting this forward. So, if you were to approve this process today, it wouldn't begin probably until August or September. That's something we'd have to think through and work out with them. But from the time they hit and go, it's a 16 to 17 week process because there's a lot of different things that go into this that I'm going to sort of go through next. So the phases of the work, it goes into much more detail in the packet. I'm just sort of hitting the high points here, but phase one is preparing for a successful audit process. And that's going to include a lot of conversations with staff, also with board, gathering information and developing focus group questions. What do we want them to ask the focus groups when they go out and do this work? And anything else that goes into the overall organization of just getting this started and getting this thing rolling. Phase two would be analyzing our current communication program, school communication performance evaluation. It's called the SCOPE survey. Very well thought out, established survey that's built just for us. It's not some kind of generic cookie cutter approach they use all over. It's going to be something that is built based on phase one, the input they get. They're going to go through and look at, do a district materials review. They're going to look at print, what do we put out? We have documents that are our documents that we put out. They want to review those and see what we're currently doing and go through and look at that. Digital, they want to look at everything from our websites to other tools we may use in the electronic digital world. Policy, they want to go through and look at our policy guide, and not in student services or personnel, but dealing with communications. What suggestions might they have for the board in that realm and arena, as well as procedures that go with that. Analytics, dive deep into everything from our social media sites to our website to anything where they can gather analytics to tell the story from a data point of view of how we drive things and how we get information out and who's going to look at this information and who opens that email that we send out and those kind of things. Organizational charts, budget, all those different facets go into that component of phase two. And then phase three is actually getting out and doing focus groups. And that goes into the listening stage. And that's the part that's going to take probably the longest to do because they do at least, up to 10 focus groups made of 8 to 12 participants, and each of those is made of various and diverse stakeholders. So they're going to be doing focus groups with employees. They're going to do focus groups with families, with students, with people in the community that may not have any people in schools. But those different groups bring that information together along with a survey, and from that comes phase four. And phase four is developing recommendations for a strategic communication program. Again, the board would have to approve that. They bring recommendations. The board would have to look at it at that point and say, I don't agree with recommendation 2. Let's change that word, or whatever we want to do. We would make it our own moving from that. But they would come with the recommendations that addresses the effectiveness of your school district's current communications, public relations, marketing, and engagement efforts, and provide targeted recommendations that cover various topics. So when you look at the next slide, of course, there is a cost with that. Communications investment is the way that I've termed this, because I do think if the board chooses to go this direction, it is an investment in the future for Cleveland City Schools. But there is a cost for that. The audit that is laid out in front of us in the proposal, including up to 10 focus groups, is $20,350, which includes the base fee for one auditor and the enrollment-based fee for scope survey, plus expenses if applicable. There are optional services. So, for example, if we want them to come in person to deliver the final audit review, there's a cost for their travel and those kind of things. Or we can, of course, do it by electronic means as well. So those are the extras. But even with that, the total was around $25,000 total. If you want the full, I would say the full Cadillac version of that. But the base is $20,350. This is comparable to what I got another quote from another company as well. The price seems to be very similar to the other one that I got. Just for reference, there is a board policy about consultants. It's 1.303. And it does state the board may occasionally engage the service of qualified professional consultants. And there's a written proposal that's necessary to do that. That's what we have here. And it talks about exactly the kind of things that are required on the board policy. So if the board chooses to go down that road to do that, there is policy that dictates your right to do that. So.
Do you have a recommendation for us, Dr. Dyer?
Yes, my recommendation would be to allow NSPRA to go by their proposal to do a communications audit and conduct that for Cleveland City Schools.
I need a motion.
I move that we engage this
All
communication
right.
audit.
A second, Nate. All right, discussion, questions.
I had a question. Thinking about, can you go back a slide there, Cody, please? Thinking about the phases here.
Right.
So where does the actual schools fit? Which phase as far as the work goes?
I think mainly where you'll see schools will be, I think actually throughout because phase 1, we're going to be talking to people in schools, mainly the conversation piece. What are they seeing as goals that we need to do? They'll be talking to you all, to me, to our staff, to people, just to figure out where are we wanting this to go? What is that conversation piece? So that'll be part of it. Phase 2, they're going to get in and look at phase 2 is the survey, so it'll be surveying employees and families. It'll be surveys of students, so that'll be engaging. But also, they're going to look at what schools put out there. Whether it be their handbooks or the high school last year, I think put out a flyer that 10-page flyer, I believe, that went out, brochure. So that'd be something that they would be looking at as well. So all those different things that the schools put out. Maybe not every single piece of material that goes out, but samples from each of the schools and the district as well. Looking at the schools' websites, looking at information that is flowing from them out to the community or families. Phase 3 would be the biggest part, I would say. That's when your focus group comes in. So, I don't know the exact details of who would be involved, but when you're thinking about 10 focus groups, 8 to 12 each, you're going to pull from a wide variety of different people for that from different schools and communities.
And that's fine, it's just not explicit, that's what I'm asking.
Right.
And the follow-up to that is, what about, like for example, the maintenance staff, would they be included in these discussions?
I would want them involved, and I think that's where that conversation piece comes in, that we make sure that we bring up, we don't want just the academic team. We want to make sure that business is part of it, make sure that operations is part of it, and so forth too.
Other comments? Peggy?
Have you talked to other school systems that have used this program?
Julie did some background checking on that before she left, and we have heard some positive reviews. And I've been to the NSPRA conference before, and Julie has as well. So we've got some good feedback as far as that goes to bring you to let you know that they
Do a good job.
do a good job.
Mhm.
From what I've been able to tell.
That sounds good. The other thing, this sounds like this would be ready probably in January 2023.
I would think somewhere in there,
Mhm.
yes. That's the goal. Hopefully before then,
Mhm.
but that would be something I would hope we can get.
Okay.
Krista?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that this is something that I think is really important that we do. When we hear things from the community, it typically centers around communications.
Right.
And so the ability to assess where we are and what we're doing on a regular basis. We can't just do it once, and because we did this several
Right.
years ago,
Right.
we can't just do it once and think we're done. This is something that is ongoing, and I think this is a service that we can provide to our community, to our parents, to our faculty and our staff, in always seeking to communicate better, more effectively, and to address to provide information so that everyone is aware of what we're doing.
I agree. I agree.
Nate?
I'll just add my opinion as far as the optional. I think it's important whether we do in person or virtual that we have a conversation with this consulting group
I would agree.
as a board. So
I would agree.
Anything else? I would like to add an example today was how Taylor was talking to us about the challenges of hiring or finding and hiring bus drivers and then training them, and how that's all changed and become more complex and it takes longer time. And then Carolyn brought up the perfect example of, well, the teachers don't know this. So when the teachers say, why are we having to make a bus run 2 routes? Why are we because they just don't know that. So this communication piece is so important because it's sometimes internal communication on just things like that that would be so helpful to their understanding and the parents, of course, the community. But I thought that was just a perfect example. Like, ding, you're right, Carolyn. That's we need to let them know that.
The more teachers can know, and principals, the less problems you have in, well, I heard this, or I heard that, or,
Yeah.
this is not working. But the more teachers can know, the less problems you have.
I agree.
with this.
And even know that they have a place or an avenue to get information if they want to go look for that themselves, even if there wasn't a presentation. It's like, well, I know where I can go find that out and make that available for them. So all staff members. Nate?
one more question. Now, I know Cliff does the crisis plan.
Right.
Will they address crisis communication?
They will.
Because I didn't see anything in
Yeah,
there.
it's not spelled out in there, but that's one of the things that I was going to make sure that they do as well. So I had that same thought.
This makes it aware, the whole community aware of all the good things that we're doing.
Sure.
So I think
Yeah.
that's really good.
Yeah, it is. This will be a very thorough audit. They have an audit light, but my feeling is if we're going to do this, I'd rather get the full audit.
Yeah.
Let's get
Absolutely.
the true plan, move forward. Not a big price difference in that anyway. I'd rather uncover anything that we need to do better and then work on that.
I was actually surprised at the price. I thought it was going to be much higher than that.
I did too.
So that's good.
Well, and one other thing too, we need to make sure that we understand how people get their information.
Mhm.
We assume everybody gets their information the same way we do.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
Sure.
And we have to know, how do you get your information so that we can deliver that information so everyone can get it? And that's what this audit can do. Instead of
Right.
us sitting up here and assuming we're gonna have somebody looking and actually digging through the data and seeing this is how you communicate and this is how you can disperse that information.
Yeah.
Good point.
And, we assume that people understand and know, and they don't. So it's good to get the information out to them.
I agree. Including internal stakeholders.
Right.
Any other comments, questions? All right, well, let's take a vote. All those in favor of hiring this communications firm at the price listed, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Dyer. We will go right into our diversity strategic plan.
Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Kaiser to come forward, and he has a presentation for you, and then we can discuss that as well.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon. You taking it easy this summer, Mr. Kaiser?
We're bored in Human Resources.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Actually, Michelle is on vacation, and I realized I don't know what I'd do without her being here all the time, so I tried to make it through this week. I'm going to present to you today on engaged workforces and kind of an update of where we're at on our strategic plan, but we're specifically going to focus on the diversity component today. So I'll ask Cody if he'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is our current engaged workforce strategic plan goal. We're going to revisit that in a little bit, but I wanted to bring this to the forefront kind of at the beginning. And that is to provide a diverse, high-quality education staff in our schools. We're going to talk about maybe some wordsmithing around that language, but I want to give you an update on where we're at right now with the work around engaged workforce. It's essential for everyone to understand that without our staff, none of the work that we're charged with can be accomplished. So it's essential that we do everything we can to bring the best and the brightest to Cleveland City Schools. So Cody, if you'll scroll ahead. So these are things that were listed in our strategic plan that we have already seen a lot of growth in and a lot of accomplishment around. First is increased social media use and recruiting. If you follow us on social media, you can see we put out a lot of job postings. I just posted one while I was sitting in the back for different positions. All of our positions, we try to put them out, whether they're teacher assistant positions or they're principal positions or they're supervisory positions. We try to put all those out on our social media sites so people can see those. We're getting a lot of engagement in that area. We have worked on changing our recruiting and our documentation to engage more minority candidates. One of the things that we've tried to specifically do is be intentional about the students that we feature on our documentation to showcase the diversity that we have in Cleveland City Schools. That's one of the things that we believe is one of our strengths. So it's something we certainly want to showcase. We've gotten a lot of good community feedback on the things that we've done with our website, the pictures that we've featured, and those kind of things. And that all has an impact on who is willing to come and work for us. The third item that I'll talk more in detail about is we have created a staff diversity advisory committee. They have been fantastic, and I'll talk more about that group in just a minute, but the group that we had this year really was great. We have developed a teacher pipeline for current students to enter the teaching profession. As you know, we started the Teaching as a Profession class at Cleveland High School. We'll continue to have some work on that teacher pipeline so we can encourage our current students to enter the teaching profession. Then over time, we've developed district core values and beliefs. We kind of had that ready to go at the beginning of our strategic plan, but then some strange event happened and that kind of delayed a lot of the work that we had laid that we were going to start on quickly. But we'll turn back to that this upcoming year. So those are kind of some of the things that we've already accomplished on kind of our timeline. Cody, if you'll go to the next one. So I want to highlight these people so you know who they are because we have had a diversity group for a little while, but this group really dug into the work, and Ms. Croft is actually sitting back here in the audience, but I think she would probably agree that they really gave valuable feedback to us this year on where we're at, what we need to know about what's going on in our schools, how our staff feels in our schools, and what we can do to improve. So the group, we tried to pull from each area within our district, but Ms. Croft was our administrative representative as principal. Kim Brad from Cleveland Middle School at the time was our assistant principal. Ms. Alvarez is the elementary teacher at Ross. Rodney Broadnex is our teacher at Cleveland Middle School. Michelle Adsit is the most valuable person, in my opinion, in this office. She's by me out front.
She's great.
Ben Garcia, who began the school year as a paraprofessional at Cleveland High School, but then moved into the technology department, working under Dr. Raper. He's provided valuable input. And then Valerie Mack is the representative from Maintenance and Transportation. They were very open and honest, and that's what we really need in having the discussions around diversity and some of the challenges. And they were quick to bring in all the wide range of diversity that we have to talk about and we have to consider when we're having these conversations. So I just want to give them kind of a shout out and thank them for their work this year. They don't know it yet, but most of them I'm not quite through with them. They just haven't been told. So just kind of some future needs that we have initially identified as things to kind of work on. Just work that we know we're going to begin working on more immediately. It's just additional training for our existing staff. Some of the things that we want to do are not going to happen overnight, so we need to make sure that we're preparing and equipping our staff to deal with diversity, however that may come. You're well aware that we have a gamut of diversity across our district. If you don't understand that, come stand at the back of graduation and watch all the people move through, as I did this year at the back of graduation while everything was going on the stage. I was just watching the people. We have such a wide range of diversity within our school system, so we need to make sure we've equipped our staff to handle all those potential situations that they may encounter in the right way, handle that appropriately. We realized that we need to add a representative from food service. That is a group that was not representative on our diversity committee, and we'll get an individual. I'll get with Ms. Berry and we'll make sure we have an individual from that group moving forward. But we want to make sure that we're trying to be inclusive of all of our groups within the school system. We need to work on additional work with our primary partners around diversity, which is our primary partners for education prep providers, that's hard to say, are Lee University and the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. They have been great. I would credit them with a lot of the moves we've been able to make, the progress we've been able to make, because they're aware of our goals, and they will personally, the individuals in the College of Education will personally contact me and provide me information. But we have work that we want to continue to grow with them to continue to meet our recruiting goals and those kind of things. We have some additional work on the paraprofessional to teacher pipeline options, what's available to those folks. You've heard a lot about grow your own. In Tennessee, that's very much a buzzword area, buzzword that's going on in our state right now. We have some work around that. We've started the student to teacher pipeline. Now we've got to work on the paraprofessional to teacher pipeline. The state has opened up a lot more options for those folks if they have a 4-year degree. But at some point we want to talk about being able to use some of our best paraprofessionals and help them to get college credits so they can become our teachers, because we already know they're equipped with the skills to handle the students. So certainly if we can get them through the university path, we can hire them into some of our positions. So that's one of the areas that we want to work on moving forward. Then additional work around district core values and marketing, helping people to know and understand who we are. I think that's one of the things that, we'd heard about the communications audit. We're working on a communications person to come on board with the district in the upcoming year. One of the things that we've heard consistently is know who you are and really speak that over and over and over. And so what the district core values allow us to do is to say who we are and then message that out to the people that are future employees. Cody, if you go to the next one. So this year we have to send in a diversity goal to the State Board of Education. This rule has been on the books for a couple of years. We were told we were going to do that last year, and then we never got any additional information. We were told we were going to get some guidance. We never got any additional information. So we had our own internal goal, but this year the state actually sent us something at the very end of the school year, and we had to come up with a goal for us to start out the school year with. So this is kind of our goal for now. We're going to flesh this out and add more to this over time when I have an opportunity to talk more with the diversity committee. But this is kind of our initial starting point, and this is what we have submitted to the State Board of Education at this point in time. So in 2022-2023, Cleveland City Schools will implement strategies to recruit and retain employees more reflective of the district's student population. So that's something that's specifically in the language of the State Board, is about becoming more reflective of our district's student population. And as you're well aware, our district population, one example would be that we are about 26% Hispanic. Our staff is not reflective of that. That's going to take work over time. And I'll show you some statistics later so you can see that. But that's what we want to work toward. Obviously, we're always going to hire the best people, but we want to work toward this and have this as a goal. So the two primary strategies we've identified at this point in time are to continue using our Employee Diversity Committee, have them meet bi-monthly to discuss diversity concerns, as that helps us with retention, and then local strategies to recruit faculty and staff reflective of the district student population. We really have to work on what works in Cleveland, Tennessee, because recruiting to Cleveland, Tennessee is different than recruiting to Nashville, or it is different than recruiting to Chattanooga. So we really need the input of that diversity committee to help us with what we need to do locally. We have tried strategies that others say, well, this will work. Well, it didn't really work for us, so we try something else, and so we continue to move forward. And this committee really gives good input on what works best in our area. And then the second is the goal to collaborate with Lee University and the University of Tennessee Chattanooga to increase the diversity of our educator candidate pool. We can't hire them folks if they're not available. And so you'll see in a second, I've pulled the educator prep provider statistics for the state of Tennessee. That pool continues to be about 85% white. So the availability of diverse candidates is still limited. So what we can do is to work with our prep providers and have them assist us in recruiting students and having strategies to increase our candidate pool. So those are kind of our primary goals that we've identified for the upcoming year. One of the things that we want to do, and I think we heard this kind of from the board to some degree, is to look at the language of our goal within our strategic plan and make sure that it is very clear to the community of what we are looking for. We created this goal. I think the intention was to include everybody, but it's not always clear, and then when other individuals read it, we want to seek to clarify that. So the thing I'm going to propose to you today is to change the language around our current strategic plan from what I read to you at the beginning of the presentation to the proposed goal that is up there. Provide a diverse, high-quality staff encompassing all of our staff, from food service to transportation to central office to our teaching staff. Provide a diverse, high-quality staff across our district. So not just in schools, but in every facet of Cleveland City Schools. So that's kind of the proposal I would bring to you today. And then I just want to share with you some statistics of where Tennessee is at and where we are right now in recruiting in our school system. So this is a 3-year cohort. So this is 3 years of graduating classes kind of lumped together. These are the people that are graduating from the state of Tennessee. This is your statistics. So currently, over a 3-year period, about 9,300 people graduate in education. 84% of those are white, 9.2% are African American, 1.2% are Asian, 0.1% are Hawaiian, 3.7% are Hispanic, 1.7% identify as 2 or more races. That's why I say when we have a student population that's 26% Hispanic, very difficult to recruit, and that's why Grow Your Own is so important. Encouraging our own students to come back and join the teaching profession is very important if our goal is to make our staff more reflective of our student population. And if you would, Cody, just to share with you kind of where we have been able to move the needle to some degree with our recruiting. 2020, 2021, you can kind of see the statistics there, that we have a spot in our application process where if individuals choose to, they can declare their race. They're not required to do that. They can choose to do that. And it helps us to kind of know where we are, but when individuals do that. So in 2020, 2021, our applicants were 87% white. You can see that has decreased slightly as we've seen an uptick in diversity in most of our other areas. Hispanic is up from 4.3 to 5.2 this school year. HPI, Hawaii and Pacific Islander, has gone up just a tad. Our student population is actually 1% Hawaii and Pacific Islander at this point, if you're not aware of that. Asian has gone up just a tad, American Indian has gone up just a tad, and then African American has gone up from 4.9% to 7% over the past year. I think that's reflective of some of the efforts that we have made. It's also reflective of we have a job applicant process that gets pushed out. It's a little more effective than what we used really about 3 to 4 years ago. It's just much more effective in reaching out to folks, not just in our community, but across the country and even around the world. We had an probably heard me say it before. We had an applicant from India who applied to teach PE. Never had that experience before. Cody, if you'll go to the next one, I think that's about it. At the end, that's it. So that's just kind of the presentation. I don't know if we require a vote to change the strategic plan or need to have some conversation around that.
It would be a vote to change that because it is a board-approved plan. But
And we need a recommendation from you, Dr. Dyer.
Yes, my recommendation, if we want to go back to that, would be to change the proposed is up there to provide a diverse, high-quality staff across our district. This proposal, I like that, but I'm open to your thoughts on that. My recommendation is to change this
language?
Change the language to the proposed language in our strategic plan.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Carolyn, Charlie, second. Okay, now discussion, questions
About everything or just the motion?
about the motion or any of this.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you go back to this previous slide with the numbers? Right here. So you're looking at the 2 different years there, there's 245 drop in the right column. However, the percentages are higher. So what do you contribute the increase in percentages for the lower numbers?
Say that again for the increase in percentages.
The totals.
Number of applicants.
Well, the number of applicants are down because we haven't gotten to the end of the year. Yeah, so
Right,
we'll have to, when we really get to compare apples to apples, will be when we get to June 30th. We can really see exactly where we are. It was just trying to get a snapshot right now of where we're at for the upcoming
Yeah,
year.
and I get that, and I'm just saying that the percentages are higher, are better. So is
What
there
I
some?
contribute?
Yeah, what do you
Our higher
contribute to that?
percentage? I
Yeah.
think it is a combination of all the things that we've talked about. I think it is our prep providers really, they know what we're looking for. They will call me and intentionally ask me about placing students within our school system, especially our more diverse student populations. The Dean of the College of Ed at Lee has called me and said, I have a candidate who I think would really fit well, for example, like at Arnold. Can I place that student teacher there? And of course, we try to accommodate as best we can, and it ends up working out, and that young lady is going to be hired to teach in that school system. So I think it is that type of relationship. I think it really boils down to local relationships in a lot of ways, but it's also our social media and recruiting. I think it is putting the word that's out there. We've got diverse candidates from as far away as California this year. We've had diverse candidates on all of our interview pools for central office staff. I think it's a combination of all those things that we're seeing an increase. And it's also putting out there that we're looking for diverse candidates in our school system. And I think that's a big part of it as well.
Peggy?
Yeah, you mentioned Lee University and UTC. What about Tennessee Wesleyan, working with them?
We do work with them. We work with all those folks, but they're not our primary partners. They're kind of a secondary partner. We bring in student teachers from all over the place. We just don't have as close a relationship with them. We don't sit down as much with them as we do Lee and UTC because of the primary partnership functions a little differently with the state. But we do work with them. I attended a meeting up there, and that's one of the things I tell all of them is we're looking for diverse candidates because we want what we need to align with what they're trying to bring to us, and that's not always the case at every university, but Lee and UTC have been very accommodating in working with us.
Well, Athens is a small town, and you think that they some of their students would be happy coming to Cleveland, because what I've heard from some of the students, well, Cleveland's a small town. They want to be in Nashville or Atlanta or someplace like that. So I thought that might be a good source.
Yeah, we do work with a number of universities,
all
but
of
you have to declare with the state primary partnerships, and those are your on paper closest to your school system that you work with, but you still work with all the rest as well.
And we go to recruiting fairs at UGK and lots of other places where we certainly will solicit students from, but those are the people that we have the closest relationship. We get the most student teachers from, obviously, because they're in the local area.
I have a question, Mr. Kaiser. When we have a candidate that comes from another state or even another country, how is it determined whether their licensure meets the requirements for the state of Tennessee? How do you do
If
that?
they come from another country, it's a lot more complicated. A lot more complicated. They have to have somebody that evaluates your transcripts, and then you have to go through the whole process with the state of getting, after that's evaluated, do their degrees equate, and then you upload that into T-Encompass, and you go through the whole process.
Do you have to do that at this district level?
We
or
have
do
to
you-
work through the transcript piece, so that can be uploaded and gone through. And then we have to work with the educator to get that uploaded. If they come from another state, Tennessee has actually made it easier. If they come to us with a professional license, you can't have an apprentice license, but if you have a professional license and you now apply through T-Encompass, generally, as long as they have a reciprocal agreement, you can be granted a professional license or a license in the state of Tennessee. That has gotten much easier in the last 2 years, as you know. I think everyone's well aware there is an education shortage across the country, so they're trying to make it easier on those individuals. One of the things they heard, it was more difficult to recruit to Tennessee because they didn't allow that, so they've made that change to improve our ability.
Yeah,
to do
we've
that.
watched that legislation pass through the last couple of years because we have so many border states around us, and it's even difficult for any of those teachers to come into Tennessee with their licenses that they have. So I'm glad that legislature has listened to that. I think they're going to have to do some more work, though.
They are. They're working on it. They're working on like allowing retired teachers to come back and under certain circumstances. So they're aware and they're working with us.
Have you had any applicants from another country? Have we had many?
Not many. We get that occasionally. It's just, sometimes there are outliers that will come in and ask, or they're, family, or they have some connection here. I'm always surprised by all the connections to Cleveland, Tennessee from around the world.
Yeah.
Well, and language would be, you think about the Ukrainian people, some of them that are coming to Cleveland, and you wonder, well, if they speak English, are they teachers? Would they apply for those jobs? And our Eastern European friends, it would be kind of interesting. But you commented about sitting in the back of graduation, and we were fortunate to get to sit on the stage and watch those students come across. And I had probably a dozen people say to me, I did not know Cleveland High School was so diverse. How wonderful. And I guess if anybody felt negative, they didn't say anything. But the people that really liked that made those comments, and they said, that's the world that we live in, and so that's Cleveland, Tennessee. We're not even talking about living in a big city. We're talking about living in Cleveland. This is our community, and we're proud of it, and we're proud that that all those students can succeed. It doesn't matter where they're from or their, race or culture, that they are all taught and able to succeed in Cleveland. So I was really proud of our school system that day and those students.
As you should be. There was a young man. We did a video for Teacher Appreciation Week, and there was a young man who came to us from another country, and he had learned to speak English pretty well in about 10 months.
Wow.
It was very impressive.
That is impressive. Any other comments? So we have a motion.
I
Krista?
just wanted to add too, because it's interesting that you mentioned that experience at graduation, because I had the exact same sensation of watching those students coming across the stage, and I had that feeling of, if you want to know what's going on in our schools every day, you need to come and watch graduation and see who comes across that stage and how proud they are, and how we teach every student that walks through the door. So.
And just look at the audience, all the people, all the families and friends sitting in the stands, so they're all there. And it's just such a happy day. I just love graduation. It's great. But we have a lot to celebrate, and diversity is our strength, I believe. So anyway, that's for me. Are we ready to vote on this motion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. I know you have to leave. She's got a meeting in Nashville, so you can skedaddle. Thank you, Miss Carol. Have a safe drive, yes. All right, thank you, Mr. Kaiser. Okay, Nate, we're going to do policies next.
Yeah, I'll save you time and reading the details of all the policies. And I will say that there's only 2 this time, so you don't have to sit through 22. So, 6.3.06 involves interference, disruption of school activities, and obviously this language needed to be changed. And what you see there in the strikeout versus what's in red is what's been recommended by TSBA. There is some language in here. I think line 6. Such measures may include the use of reasonable force to restrain or correct students and maintain order. So that was tweaked and put in line 17 through 24. So that's a complete rewrite for that particular policy there. Okay, and then 6.705, minor changes here. We added the director of schools / designee instead of making the board approve student social events, but also we struck out the lines 10 and 11, giving authority back to the schools to do the social events instead of having a board policy that identifies that. So those are the 2 policies.
Need a motion to approve. First reading.
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second, Peggy. Okay. Krista, you have a question?
Yeah, the student social events policy, that's one we discussed last time. Was that strikeout as a result of the meeting that you had?
Yes, the principals were in agreement that those lines could come out, and they were okay with that.
I like to give that discretion to the principals, and I know we want consistency across the system. However, a principal's got to determine what happens in that principal's school, I believe. I just think they are better in touch with that community than we are. So anyway, all right, any other questions? All those in favor of the first reading of those 2 policies, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Very good. Okay, strategic plan focus. Dr. Raper.
It's time to talk about my favorite topic, technology. Sorry. Good afternoon, board. First, I would like to start with introducing a new staff member. Next slide. This is Tim Davis. He's our network administrator. Tim, if you want to wave, we're very happy to have him on board. Speaking of hiring from out of state, he's actually from Mississippi. Worked in a couple of school districts there as network administrator, did a fantastic job, and moving here for an upcoming wedding that's coming soon. So we're so happy to have him here in Cleveland City Schools.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we punished you by making you come and sit through a board meeting. But you're welcome anytime. Not so bad. Okay.
I'd like to start today's update by giving you some instructional highlights of the BLADE program. I get really excited about technology, but as an educator at heart and a teacher, what I get most excited about is seeing the students use the technology to learn and grow. And so the first thing I want to show you, Ms. Croft actually mentioned it, but it's Bobcat News. Students at Blythe Bower, with the help of technology teacher Tammy Dale, write and record a newscast that is uploaded to the school's YouTube channel and presented to students in their classroom. Students use their Chromebooks to share scripts, research via Google Drive and Google Classroom. And kind of along with that same vein, the Bobcastic newspaper. Each month, students pick a topic they want to write about and use their one-to-one Chromebooks to conduct research. The newspaper uses Google Classroom to work collaboratively with each other and organize their writings, and the final product is created and shared in Google Slides with the students. So 2 really cool things happening at Blythe Bower. Next up, I have not seen this personally, and now I want to head over to Mayfield. So Mayfield Indy Sphero program. Mayfield Kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, K1 and 2. Learn coding with robotics called Sphero Indy. Sphero Indy teaches block coding at the most simplistic level in a fun way using a little car, Indy, who reads the color tiles to create an algorithm. So the students are laying out these tiles, the car kind of goes over, oh, turn left, turn right, do these different things. And then they sharpen computational thinking skills through hands-on interactive play that transferred those skills to a Chromebook. So they learned in person with the Indy, then they moved to Sphero EDU Junior app on the Chromebook and began learning basic programming skills with drag and drop blocks. So this is K1 and 2. My undergraduate major was actually accounting. So we have some elementary students who are using Excel, which makes my heart very happy, or in this case, Google Sheets. So Ross 4th graders use the engineering design process to design, test, and improve straw rockets. Following the motto, if it can't be measured, it can't be improved, students recorded and averaged data in Google Sheets using their one-to-one STEM Chromebooks. It was a great project to hit the 4 areas of STEM. So great to see young people using Excel and Google Sheets. This was actually really cool. This was Miss Bryson at Cleveland Middle School. 7th grade students have been learning about the complexities of cell division. For their culminating project, they were tasked with using yarn, pipe cleaners, and their MacBooks to create moving, cohesive visuals of the 6 steps in the cell division process. Groups had to engineer a recording set up to take 50 to 100 still frames, and then they piece them together to create a movie. Michael, could you play one of those just so you can see it? So these are all individual pictures they've taken, and then using their MacBooks, they've created into a movie. And the cell will go through and divide and do all the different things that I don't remember from 7th grade, but I probably would if I had done this activity. So, thank you.
Have fun.
It's more pressure than you think back there, isn't it, Michael? Okay, so I also want to highlight some stuff we're doing. We're starting at Cleveland Middle School, trying to expand to Cleveland High School and also elementary schools. So for a long time, Promethean boards have been the sage on the stage of what we use in classrooms. We go up to the board, we touch it, we have interactivity, and it's kind of become a standard. And about 3 weeks ago, the person who's kind of over the instructional technology at Lee University emailed me. It's like, hey, we're looking at getting new active panels. What are you all using? I was like, well, let me tell you about this. Come and see what we're doing. So we're kind of starting to try to get away from active panels and just have TVs up in the room and moving to iPads for the actual instruction. So we can use apps like Explain Everything and some other different things. And number one, the teacher can now, I'm not going to move away from the mic or people can't hear me, but the teacher can roam around the room. And so they're not stuck up at the front of the board. So they can have proximity to students as needed, which helps with classroom management. Also, we can hand it off to students. Students can take a picture of their work. The teacher can say, oh, look what Johnny's doing. They can highlight, annotate on it. So it's taking the Promethean board, getting it off the wall into the hands of the teacher that can also get into the hands of the students. Not to put you on the spot, but y'all kind of pioneered this. Any thoughts on this?
It saves money.
It's also cheaper.
All right.
I can outfit 2 teachers, 2.5 teachers' rooms with this technology, which does exactly what Dr. Raper says. It puts them in closer proximity to the students, as well as gives some diversity about the different items he identified. I can outfit 2.5 classrooms for the price of 1 Promethean panel.
Spoken like a true principal. Better pedagogy, teachers love it, students love it, and we're saving some money. And in the presentation deck that was shared with you in the notes, there's some links to some recordings and stuff people have done. Another great thing about the iPads that I should have mentioned, you can cast it out live. So if a student's at home, they can see what's on the board through the iPad, hear what's going on in the classroom and things like that. Hannah Minema's class, an 8th grade Raider TV broadcasting students, worked in groups to plan, edit, and design and produce short films for projects for our CMS 50-year celebration using their MacBooks. They use iMovie, Canva, Adobe, Vimeo, and various AV production equipment. And seeing as this is an area I came from, it really excites me that we're able to give kids MacBooks that they can install Adobe Creative Suite on. It's industry standard software. I had somebody stop me about 2 months ago and be like, hey, you taught me Photoshop and you wouldn't believe how much I use that in my life now. And so we're getting kids on industry standard software that they can really do creative stuff with, and I'm really proud that we can do that. Next slide. So I wanted to give you an update on our strategic plan. So the board has directed us to create a technology strategic plan. And here's where we are. We have completed establishing where we are. So we kind of went through, talked to different groups, and made a baseline of here's where technology stands in Cleveland City Schools. We then have sent out a comprehensive needs assessment to involve all stakeholders, and we've had 1,120 responses to that needs assessment across students, teachers, staff, and parents. So very happy with the responses to that. So then the next steps will be to review this needs assessment as a group. I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or two to committee members, take some time over the summer to review it, and then try to meet up to then create goals based on those needs. And then from those goals, we'll plan action steps, which will feed into the overall strategic plan that we should have to you all in the fall. So any questions about the strategic plan? Nate is your board member representative on that committee.
Really? No.
Okay. And finally, just to kind of let you know where we are with infrastructure and devices. We are 1-to-1, as you know, and we have refreshed almost all devices in the last year or so. So K-5 got Chromebooks in spring of 2021, 6-8 got MacBooks spring of 2021, 9-12 got MacBooks in the fall of 2021. And so they're all on a 4-year cycle. They're all going to need refreshed about the same time. So that's going to be really interesting, Cindy. But it's going to be great. And then teachers are on a 3-year cycle. This will be their last year with their MacBooks. And so next summer we should be refreshing the teacher devices. And nobody really knows, but I think Apple has some really cool things coming out soon that we should be able to get the teachers. So.
Yes.
Awesome. Lastly, I wanted to give you a heads up. We're about to overhaul every access point in the district. We've been on Extreme Arrow High for a while. And we've done a test bed of this at Yates Elementary. I've had flawless Wi-Fi since we've moved to it. We're Aruba top to bottom besides wireless. So we're moving about 525 other access points across the district to Aruba. Normally we would do this over the summer, but it's taken a while to get stuff in. So sometime during the school year, we should complete this transition. And I say we very lightly because I really mean Tim. Welcome to Cleveland City Schools.
There you go.
That's all I have for you officially, but do you have any questions for me?
Board?
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say Cody's done a great job leading that technology group, and so thanks.
Appreciate that.
It's a big job. Oh, my goodness. We appreciate you, Dr. Raper.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. All right, site committee. Charlie.
We're going to have Hal come up. We're going to talk about the Chattanooga Gas Regulator Station proposal.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Oh, if I haven't put you to sleep here, we'll try not to. So we had, in 2019, you voted to accept the proposal. They decided not to put it in, and so they never followed up, but then they came back more recently and decided they do have to have the regulator. But they had to change their map a little bit and change the setup a little bit. So they came back, and that's where this request is coming, is with all the Highway 60 improvements, they need to put a regulator station there at the corner. It'll go right at the northeast corner of the property. The city, what you're doing is you're looking at what they have proposed to us. If you look at, if you would go to and look at the proposal not the plot, but the actual letter that they have sent Cody.
Which one of these houses are?
The bottom one, go to the. And that's the proposal for $10,000 for an easement, and that's what you're granting them is an easement. There's also a deed. Now, in this case, what we have to do is you would go ahead and approve it if you desire to do this. You would approve it, but then it would go to the city council. And in the process, before it goes to the city council, John Kimball will review it, and he will probably change the verbiage on the deed to make sure that it is in line with how we normally do our deeds and so forth. So that is one thing that would change. But here's the proposal. They're saying $10,000. I think it was about 800 square feet of easement. The city also has to look at it to make sure it fits into their plans for building sidewalks. So that's why you would basically approve it on contingent on the city council approval. And the engineering department for the city would make sure that it fits into their plans for sidewalks. And then John Kimball, the city attorney, would review it to make sure it fits legally. So that's what this would be if you so choose to allow them to do this on the school property. And then they would in turn give you $10,000 for the easement.
Do you have a recommendation, Dr.?
Yeah. My recommendation is to approve the proposal.
Need to read this when Hal sends you something. He wants this motion read as is. The Cleveland City Board of Education approves the proposal from Chattanooga Gas made for an easement at CMS to install a natural gas regulator station contingent on the approval of the Cleveland City Council. So you see just exactly how the motion would be read, he said.
Okay, that's a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Okay, Peggy. Questions for Hal? No?
Just out of curiosity, is this the same figure they offered us back in 2019, or has it changed in terms of
It's the same figure.
compensation?
The original figure was only about $2,000 on and we went back and told them no. And then they came back with the 10,000. So, and the square footage is pretty much the same. It's just redesigned. So.
Need to add inflation to that.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Hal's added a couple things that didn't get on there. He's going to give us an update on the office space back here, correct?
Yes, sir. So if you'll pull there is the one first. There is, and actually David Gluckner drew these for me, so
Thank you, David Gluckner.
He's my go-to guy when we have to have drawings and stuff. So he's real good at, very talented. So there's our existing AOB that we're in right now. We need to create some office space while we're trying to figure out, what we're going to do with the Denning Center and some other possibilities. And we have some staff this year, so we're really having to create some space for. So we've taken a look at this building. If you look at the top of that picture, you'll see some walls that are red in color. So what we've determined is we can remove those walls, and then we can go to the second picture and create these spaces and change the setup to where we create 2 additional offices. And so that's what we can do. We can do that with the maintenance staff, can do that this summer and keep it in-house and keep it very economical. So that's what we're doing. Wanted to kind of bring that to you, let you know that that's what we're looking at and doing here to accommodate more personnel in this facility.
And it's below the 5,000.
Yeah, I think we can do it below the 5,000 because we're mainly moving walls, and since we're doing it ourselves, we're talking about just materials.
Does that need a motion, Charlie?
No,
It's in-house money.
It's
your-
in-house, so it's not going to need a motion. We just wanted to inform you and make sure you're okay with it and that we're moving forward with it.
Hal, I've also been asked, I know it's getting started, it affects Cleveland High School about the track, and I know we're behind a little bit, but can you get in the girls' wrestling building, kind of update?
Yeah, they're doing footers on the girls' wrestling building now, and they're starting the cleaning and pulling out. We'll actually be pulling the lockers out Monday, and so they'll be doing some pouring next week on the wrestling building. So we are started on the wrestling building. They have gotten the surface off the old track. And then I've talked with Jonathan Cantrell, who's doing the asphalt work. Last week, we got all that heavy rain, and that put them about a week behind. They were planning on being there at the end of this week or beginning of next week to do the milling and start the asphalt. So hopefully, they'll be able to do that. So right now, though, we are moving forward on those two projects, and things are moving along, so.
And he's not here today, but I know Bob Pritchard will agree with me. Donald Benton has done an outstanding job. Because
Yeah.
you can't use the field house, you can't use the wrestling center. I mean, and there's a lot of activity that goes on at the high school, except for the dead period, which is the last week of June, the first week of July. So bless his heart, Donald was trying to get everybody happy and give them time in the arena or the volleyball gym. So it's,
And we've got the bottle fillers going in right now too.
Oh,
And
good.
those are getting put in the schools, so that's exciting. And we're actually, I think, ahead of schedule with those, so. I always like it when I can say I'm ahead of schedule on anything.
Especially in this economy that
Yes,
we're in.
ma'am.
that's it for the site committee.
And I would like to add that I've appointed Krista as the vice chairman of the site committee for the rest of this year. So the board changes all those committees in January, so that'll get us.
He doesn't need a motion on this.
No.
ma'am, we just need to inform you. make sure.
Keep you up to date on it.
Okay, now that takes us to the end of the meeting here. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up? Any, Dr. Dyer?
No.
Well, okay, thank you all for being here, and we will adjourn with general consent. Thank you.